Okay, we are live. Welcome back, everybody. Got a new video today. Let's see, what is the title? The title is, I have to go look. Here we go. Earth-Shattering, right. Got the memory of a sieve. So, Earth-Shattering. So, what is this about? I was listening to a meteorologist. His name's Daniel Swain. He's a nice guy. Soft-spoken, doesn't get excited about things. Probably should get excited about some things these days, but he doesn't. And so his claim to fame is that he's now a climate scientist, and that's fine. To transition from being a meteorologist to a climate scientist is a bit of a jump, but most people would say, oh, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It kind of doesn't. I actually have a lot of problems with meteorologists. I don't know where the problem comes from, but I'll tell you what it is. The problem with meteorologists is they don't understand Earth system dynamics. They just don't. They'll give you the weather, and they'll tell you that it's going to be record cold, and then next week it's going to be record hot, but they expect record cold after that. Okay, that's the sign that the Earth system is blowing itself to rat shit. That's not normal. Well, it can get really cold sometimes. Yeah, but it's not followed by record heat. Well, sometimes it can be record heat, but they don't go together one right after the other, especially not when it's record cold and then record hot and then record cold and then record hot again. At some point, someone has to step back and say, okay, hold on. Something going on here, okay? And you would expect the meteorologist people to be able to sit back and say, hold on. Just want to bring your attention to something here. I'm talking about weather, and I'm forecasting the record cold and the record heat. But just so you know, this is all wrong. But they won't do that. There's something about the meteorologist class of people that they won't do that. Is it their education? Well, I mean, let's understand what they are taught to do. They're taught to look at the charts that are coming from the National Weather Service that are delivered to their studio, because these meteorologists, they work for the news companies, right? You get the segment of the weather. The weather comes at a certain time into the broadcast, and there's a certain person who comes out and they talk about the weather, and there's a transition, and after that they go to sports, and it's like, what, 90 seconds? 60 seconds? Maybe less, maybe 45 seconds of weather. Maybe even half a minute, right? That's it. That's their claim to fame. They talk about the weather, and they say it's going to be high temperature tomorrow, and there's a chance of rain 5 days from now, but, no one pays any attention to that. And, other things that are going on. And maybe they'll talk about strange weather patterns elsewhere in the country, but they certainly won't talk about anything else happening outside the country. Never. And if you want to get a good overview of weather happening in the rest of the country, we're talking about the U.S. here, then you have to really go online. You have to go to YouTube, and you have to find weather personalities who are looking at the entire country. And why are they looking at the entire country? Because they're not the weatherman, the weatherwoman for a particular station serving a particular county, state, whatever it is. So you go on YouTube, and they don't know who their customers are. So they cover the whole country. They'll give you weather for all the lower 48 states. So if you want the big picture, you don't get that from your news person in your 30-second or 20-second weather forecast segment of your evening news, right? You don't get the big picture. If you want a bigger picture, you have to go to YouTube and find personalities like Ryan Hall, Max Velocity. There's a whole bunch of them now. It's actually become a big deal that people want to see the big picture. And these guys have lots and lots of followers and lots of subscribers. And they rake in huge amounts of money on this because there's actually some thirst for information about what's happening in the bigger picture. Because people kind of understand that something is going on. But you don't get that from your weather report. And what's wrong with meteorologists that they can't look at that? And even the ones that are doing the national news, right? And they're looking at the weather across all 48, maybe even all 50 states. What are they? What? They don't get it. Sometimes they do. Sometimes they talk about climate change, sometimes, occasionally, but not too often. And so when David Swain comes on and he says, oh yeah, I'm a meteorologist and now I'm a climate scientist, and he talks about climate science from the perspective of a meteorologist, which is an interesting hack, because like I said, meteorologists are routinely disappointing on this combination of topics. And he was saying something that he was surprised by something happening. He was actually surprised that something was happening in the weather, right? That's how he frames it. He was kind of surprised, and he, expressed it that way. Now, I'm not surprised by anything, ever, that's going haywire in the Earth system. I am never surprised. Everything that we see happening is in almost complete alignment with expected outcomes under a regime of global heating. Maybe not normal to weather, but I'm not looking at weather because I'm not a meteorologist. I'm an Earth system scientist. So under Earth systems as a framework, the things we're seeing happening around the planet in the U.S. 48 states, but also elsewhere, right, are all completely in alignment with well understood principles and expectations under the pressure of global heating. Completely in alignment. So when a meteorologist expresses some surprise, oh, look at this. Well, that took me by surprise. That tells me he's not plugged in. He's not plugged in. Don't know what his problem is. He should be plugged in. He's representing himself as someone who's plugged in, and he's not plugged in because he was surprised. The last time I was surprised by anything, and I was only surprised for about 5 minutes, but I was surprised, was back in 2023 when they showed a chart of record high ocean temperatures globally. And it was off the chart. The chart, the lines every year are all kind of together, and then it was up here. It's like, oh, that's bad. I mean, I was surprised to see it because I was surprised to see it because nobody predicted it, except that it was predicted. It's just that it wasn't predicted to happen so soon. That was surprising. The fact that the line left the chart was not surprising. That's what global heating is going to do. Everything is going to leave the everything. Every chart's going to break. We're going to be off the edge of the map with everything eventually. But the fact that it happened in 2023 instead of like 2043 took some people by surprise. It took me by surprise, and I had to think about that. It's like, okay, what's this about? What is this about? And that was the wake-up call. 2023 was a wake-up call. Anybody who thought they had a handle on climate change, so-called, really it's global heating. Anybody who thought they had a handle on this, like, oh yeah, we know what we're doing. Oh yeah, we can predict this. We're not going to be taken by surprise. In year 2023, they just sat down and shut up. They just sat down. Sit down. And we're going to look at this, because this ain't supposed to be happening. Sit yourself down. And they're still talking about that. 2023, the wheels came off. 2023, lots of people were surprised. Now, we're talking about Earth system scientists. Should not be surprised. I mean, we should expect surprises, but we weren't expecting that one. That was a surprise. The situation now, hardly improved, and it doesn't matter if it improves. It happened. Oh boy, it happened. No one saw it coming. No one was ready for that, and it happened anyway. What? Why? Where? We don't even know where. We don't know why it did that, but it did. We have to stop thinking in terms of weather. This conversation has to end. Okay, fine. You have your weather report. That's, at 6:25 every evening, the weather person trots out their charts and they tell you what the high temperature is going to be tomorrow and whether or not you need to take an umbrella to work. Okay, Fine, that's a useful service. Well, we can continue to have that. But all this discussion of climate change and global heating as being weather, departures from weather, it's going to be hotter, it's going to be wetter, maybe it's going to be drier. Okay, as we have to stop talking about this as if it were weather, because it's not. This planet is changing. It's changing out from under us. We've been on this planet, modern humans, Homo sapiens, for 300,000 years that we can account for. 300,000 years, that's 1/3 of a million years. Hominins, human-like, bipedal, walking like this people, personages, have been on this earth for 4.5 million years. So humans, us, biological humans, are newcomers to this thing. We came about, our 300,000 years happened entirely within the Ice Age. Human adaptation as Homo sapiens, 300,000 years, took place entirely during the Ice Age, which lasted about 3.5 million years. So almost the entirety, actually, of hominin, human-like creatures, bipedal, evolution took place during an Ice Age. So we feel like we know something about this planet. We feel like we know we got a handle on things. And your weather person will trot out every day at 6:25 in the evening to give you your forecast, and they'll act like they have a handle on things. And they'll talk about ridges, and they'll talk about troughs, and they'll talk about air masses, and they'll talk about the spiky lines and the other spiky lines, and the all the wind charts and all the other things, and how high is the snow line, and they'll talk about all these things as if they got a handle on it. This planet is changing. The Earth dynamic system is on an excursion, is what we call it. It's on an excursion. An excursion means you're going somewhere. This planet is going somewhere. We don't even know where. In 2023, we got a little bit of a wake-up call. Things can change fast. And this planet is going somewhere. It is now doing that. We don't know where it's going. We don't know how fast it's going to get there. And we don't know what it's going to look like when it's done going there. But it's going somewhere. And it's taking us with it. And we've never done this before. We've never had this journey out of 3.5 million years of familiarity into whatever comes next. Talking about the weather is going to become both increasingly difficult, because our predictive power is based on looking back to past weather patterns and then looking forward a few days and saying, okay, given all this past weather patterns, what is the next 3 days going to look like? Given this past, okay, we're at a point now where the past is no indicator. You could not have used the past 100 years of weather data to predict what happened in 2023. And nobody did. That came out of the blue, like a jaguar falling out of a tree on you, okay? It came out of the blue. No one predicted it. When it happened, everybody was taken aback, and we still don't have a handle on that. I hear various theories, but I haven't heard anything that was definitive. We still don't know. And your weather prediction is going to start to fail. For example, right now in the Pacific Northwest, states of Washington and Oregon are suffering catastrophic flooding. There's a thing called an atmospheric river, and I've heard about atmospheric rivers since I was a teenager. They come along and they drop a lot of rain. There is an atmospheric river that's hitting the Pacific Northwest, that'd be Washington, Oregon, and parts of British Columbia. It's originating in the Philippines, tropical, and that moisture is being funneled across the entire reach, the fetch of the Pacific Ocean, and then it's being narrowed and shot like a fire hose against that location, the Pacific Northwest. It is dumping, I think I heard, 15 inches of rain in 3 days. That's a little bit like a tropical storm. No surprise, it's coming from the tropics. They were not ready for this. They just weren't. Apparently, I don't know. I don't live up there. I don't know what the forecasters were saying. But whatever it was, it didn't work. It just didn't work. The people, their houses are floating away and their cars are floating away and people are dying. And they just weren't ready. Maybe they didn't listen. Maybe they didn't believe it. Who knows? But they just weren't ready. And that's a signal to me that they are off the edge of the map. And an atmospheric river that made its way from the Philippines all the way across the Pacific Ocean to rain 15 inches in 3 days. Oh, and by the way, there's a worse one coming next week. So this is like a series of these things. This is a series of these things. There's no way they can prepare for this. And now that they had like 3 days of catastrophic rain, I think the next time the weather person comes trotting out onto the stage and says, "Whoa, boys and girls, if you thought that was interesting, let me tell you what's coming next." Maybe then, when the weather person trots out at 6:25 in the evening to give their 30-second prognosis for what's about to hit, maybe people will sit up. "Oh, honey, come here, quick. The weather guy's on. What's he going to say? What are they predicting?" Right now, people are going to be paying attention. Not that they can do anything about it, but this is where we're at now. We cannot continue to think of this stuff as weather that gets a 30-second mention after the sports segment. This is now critical. We're going someplace. We are being dragged kicking and screaming into a Earth that is dominated by global heating. Because that's what's happening. Okay? That's what's happening. And your meteorologists do not get it. And what they don't get, what they don't understand, and what most of the climate scientists don't understand, because they don't talk about it. Maybe they could, but they don't. Why don't they? Not really sure. I've got some theories on that, but they don't, okay? What's happening is an event. I call it an excursion. It is a departure. This planet is going somewhere. This planet is becoming a different planet. It's going to become a planet that would have been familiar to dinosaurs 65 million years ago. And what ended the dinosaurs? An asteroid impact. Asteroid impact came down. Asteroid impact came down and wiped out the dinosaurs. Now, global heating is going to be the equivalent of our asteroid. This planet is going to become a different planet. Things I can say with absolute certainty. All the ice will melt on this planet. When this planet becomes a different planet, all the ice will melt. That's 270 some odd feet of sea level rise. If all the ice melts. And the ice that we care about most is on Greenland and Antarctica. When this planet gets hot enough, all that ice will melt. All of it. Plus, all the ice in the Himalayan mountains, and all the ice in the Alps, and all the ice in the Rocky Mountains, and all the ice everywhere else you can think of. It will all melt. There might be one time during the year in the dead of winter in the northern hemisphere when there's a dusting of snow on these highest peaks. But then it will melt and disappear in the spring. The rest of the year there won't be anything. Also, the North Pole, also the South Pole, will never again be as cold as it has been in the last 3.5 million years. That will end. We have had multiple glacial events. In the vernacular, we call them ice ages. They're not. There was one ice age. It started about, depending who you talk to, 5 million years ago or maybe 3.5 million years ago. The cooling trend began 20 million years ago, so there was a cooling trend. And then at some point, 5 million, 3.5 million years ago, a lot of ice started forming. And then we went through a series of what they call glaciation events. So people call those ice ages, but there really was one ice age, and we're at the end of it now. It's in terminal decline. We have had a termination event. The global heating we're creating now through burning fossil fuels is terminating the Ice Age. And the Ice Age has been around for about 5 million years. So that's over. The interglacials, the maximum glacial, minimum glacial, maximum glacial, minimum glacial, these events that are driven by the, what's it called? I'll remember in a second. Milankovitch cycles, exactly a second. They're driven by the Milankovitch cycles, which are cyclical, the ice events, the glacial events, which we call ice ages, but they're not. They're just events. Those cyclical events, which are predictable, it's a Milankovitch cycle. We understand it now. The Milankovitch cycles will always continue, but they won't drive ice events. They won't drive glacial and interglacial events in a cyclical fashion. There won't be any ice. We might have some cyclical cooling and some cyclical warming, and it'll just be a little cooler and a little warmer, but there won't be any ice. Because the ice age, the 5 million year old ice age, will have been over. We are in a termination event. And part of the excursion of this planet to its next stage is the termination of the ice age. 5 million years of cyclical glaciation events is over. That was a period of time in which humans evolved and came to dominate the world during the Ice Age. And now it's doomed to be terminated. Cannot continue. It will not continue. It's over. The Ice Age is over. This will be a different planet. Now that is not weather. That is an event. The termination of the Ice Age, which we have now done. It's all over now but the shouting. The termination of the Ice Age is an event. You terminate it. It's like your car running out of gas. That's an event. Yeah, you were burning gas and not filling up the tank, and all these things happened in a row. But eventually, the car runs out of gas and you pull off the road. That's what happens to you. Your car stops. That's an event in your life. And now you're walking. Okay? That's the difference. That driving your car, using the gas, filling it up, using the gas, filling it up, that's a cyclical thing that you can manage. But when you run out of gas on that moment, on that day, and you start walking, that's an event. The asteroid that struck the Earth 66 million years ago and changed the Earth was an event. The changes to the Earth were an excursion, and the results of the changes and the Earth that emerged from the changes caused the dinosaurs to go extinct. There you go. It was an event. Everything was fine. The dinosaurs were doing great. They've been on the planet for 100 million years. They were doing fine. And we've only been around for like 300,000 years. But the dinosaurs have been here for 60 million years or whatever it was. And then there was this event. And they all went extinct. They probably all went extinct in a decade or less. 6, 8, 10 years. That was it. They're done. Well, I should say the non-avian dinosaurs. We still have birds. Yes, birds are dinosaurs. If you want to know what dinosaur meat tastes like, eat a chicken. Same thing. That was an excursion caused by an event, the impact of the Chicxulub meteor. Global heating is an event. Yeah, there was a run-up to the event, and then something will come after the event, but the event is us. We did this. So, to discuss this event clearly, we have to understand that that's what it is. And the meteorologists are not going to do that for you. And I'll have to tell you, and it irritates me to no end, the climate scientists aren't going to do that for you. The climate scientists are like one step removed from meteorologists. They're still talking about what is the average temperature of the Earth and how much has the average temperature of the Earth departed from pre-industrial temperature of the Earth. They're really talking high and low temperatures and in weather terms. But it's completely meaningless to talk about how far have we departed from the average temperature of the Earth? Because the average now has no meaning. We have to stop talking about that. For example, if you go far enough in the future, then the average temperature of the Earth, what you think it should be, starts to include elevated temperatures that are recently because of global heating. So all of a sudden, your average starts to increase. Your baseline that you're supposed to be calculating, your departure from the baseline, it starts to increase because the Earth is getting hotter. This is just mathematics. They're already trying to decide if the baseline temperature is 1750, 1850, or 1950. 1950 is deep into global heating. Why would you use that as your baseline and compare from that? Why would you use 1950? I've even seen people using 2005 as a baseline. And the reason they're doing that is they're trying to normalize this excursion. They're trying to normalize the asteroid hit. They're trying to make it like it's not an event. But that's what it is. It's an event. This planet is becoming a different planet. Now, if I took Daniel Swing and I put him on another Earth-like planet, say around Tabby Star, and I put him on an Earth-like planet, and he and I got off, and there was oxygen-rich atmosphere, and clouds in the sky, and all that stuff, and I said, and he as a meteorologist would start predicting the weather. Oh, look, there's some clouds over there. Maybe there's some rain. Oh, look, it's the sun is coming up. Maybe it's going to get hot today. I wonder what the maximum temperature is going to be. He'd pull out his thermometer and start measuring the temperature. And I would tell him, Daniel, stop right there. Stop right there. I want to clear something up for you. This is not Earth. I know you're used to Earth. And that's what your entire career has been focused on. But this is not Earth. This is another planet. You and I got on a rocket. And we flew through space, and we landed on this other planet. And you can't just get off the rocket and start talking about weather on this planet. For one thing, this planet may not have the right seasons. This planet may not have the right greenhouse effect. This planet may not have the right composition of oceans versus the land. This planet is completely different. This is a new planet, Daniel. You're gonna have to study this planet for a long, long time before you can start making predictions. All your predictive models from Earth are not going to help you. Would he believe that? He might not, because he's a meteorologist. And that's what they do. They make assumptions about the planet today is the same as the planet it was yesterday. Or in this case, the planet when I get off the rocket is the same as the planet when I got on the rocket, which is clearly not the case. But the meteorologists and even some of the climate scientists don't seem to understand that. This planet, Earth, is becoming a different planet. Call it Earth 2 if you want. It's not going to be the same. Everything is going to be different. It's not going to have any ice on it. The sea level is going to be 270 feet higher. And once that happens, ocean currents are going to be completely different. The Isthmus of Panama, where the Panama Canal is, that's going to be completely flooded. It's going to completely connect the Pacific and the Atlantic Oceans. And it'll be like it was millions of years ago. The water will just flow between the Pacific and the Atlantic Oceans, probably from the Pacific to the Atlantic. I think the Pacific is a little bit higher than the Atlantic Ocean, so the water will just basically flow downhill. Nobody thinks about that. I had to look that up. So water will flow over the flooded Isthmus of Panama, and you'll get a current between the Atlantic and the Pacific and the Atlantic Ocean that will break down all the currents that currently exist, and everything you thought you knew about ocean currents just goes out the window. And ocean currents are a big part of how heat is distributed on this planet. And depending on how heat is being distributed, that determines where your rainfall zones are and where your deserts are and how hot it is in the summer and how hot it is in the winter. And then, when the ice is all gone, that completely changes the albedo of the planet. And then, when the atmospheric currents change and the ocean currents change and the rainfall patterns change, then all the places where you could grow crops now will become something else. Some of them will become tropical jungles. What do you grow in tropical jungles? Bananas? Go ask the chimps and the gorillas what grows in a tropical jungle. They can tell you. Where will you be able to grow your staple crops? Soybeans, rice, oats, wheat. I don't know. It's a different planet. After enough global heating happens, this becomes a different planet. This is Earth 2. Earth version 2. And everything we thought we knew from Earth version 1 goes out the window. Everything. Everything. We're not having that discussion. We got a little taste of it in 2023. People sat back and said, okay, what was that? Did that just happen? Yeah, I think that just happened. What do you make of that? 2023, what was that about? What was that shit about? Who ordered that off the menu? Okay, they still don't know what to think about that. Well, they're going to know even less what to think about Earth 2.0. Because that's what's happening. This is not weather. Stop thinking of it as weather. This is an asteroid impact. And everything you thought that was eternal and sacred about Earth 1.0 no longer applies. Ask the dinosaurs how that works out. Ask the dinosaurs about how that event worked for them. It didn't. Our event, our equivalent to an asteroid, is global heating. It's turning the whole system on its head. It's making this a different planet. And everything you thought was eternal and sacred about this planet is going out the window. Everything. Nothing will apply anymore. All of your predictive models about Earth 1 will not apply to Earth 2. And they probably won't even apply in the transition from 1 to 2, which we are now in. We are now in that transition. We have a termination event for the Ice Age from 5 million years ago. That's over. We have a catastrophic failure of the Greenland ice sheet now ongoing. We have similar failures taking place on the giant glaciers in Antarctica. They are all in terminal decline. It's a death watch. And between the enormous glaciers in Antarctica and the Greenland ice sheet, we're looking at, 100 feet of sea level rise, possibly. And that's not even all the ice melting. That's just dumping major amounts of ice into the oceans during huge catastrophic melt events. And then we have another decade or several, or 4 or 5 of that to continue. Everything you think you know that you want to discuss as weather is bullshit. No longer applies. And increasingly, you're going to start hearing things like, well, there's an atmospheric river coming and it's going to be cataclysmic and you need to sandbag your house and you need to park your car up on a hill. And, eventually the meteorologists are going to catch on. When they get enough black eyes over that, they just didn't say the thing. Because they don't. Sometimes the government does. But now the government, like the National Weather Service under the Trump administration, I think they're not doing that anymore. Something happened in Texas. The Guadalupe River flooded, and maybe you don't remember anymore, but 22 little girls and their chaperones were washed away at a Christian retreat. There was a cabin that was down closer to the river, and the river came up during the night, and it just grabbed that cabin and washed all those children and the minders out, washed them out. I don't know if any of them were recovered. Just washed them out to sea, and they became fish food. Now, something happened there. That was an event. They weren't ready for that. Did the National Weather Service simply not issue the event warning that there was going to be catastrophic flooding? That area was actually called, that part of Texas was actually called Flash Flood Alley. It was. They knew. They built this church retreat and these cabins for these girls in Flash Flood Alley. They knew they did that. That's what everyone was saying. And so did the National Weather Service not issue the alert? Or just as likely, when the authorities in Texas received the alert, did they simply not believe it? Why would they not believe it? Politics? The Trump administration is constantly downplaying the work of the National Weather Service and the Storm Prediction Center and all these things. It's like, don't worry about them. They're just scientists. They get excited. They're trying to work everybody up, make everybody afraid so they can take away your guns and your freedom. So don't pay any attention to them. The Trump administration, along with every other authoritarian country on earth, is going to be always hammering. Everything is fine. Don't worry. Don't do anything. Don't demand anything. Don't try to fix anything. There's nothing to be fixed. It's all a hoax. It's just lies and fear mongering, and don't worry about it. And well, then those little girls got washed away and went to sea and became fish food. So what was that about? Flash Flood Alley did the flash flood. What was that about? How'd that happen? Were they really caught by surprise? Maybe. Was there a discussion of it, but they simply assumed, this is just more weather? Maybe. Did they just simply not believe it? Maybe. Did they pray to God to make it go away and just thought that would be the case? Maybe. I don't know. Did someone go to jail for that? Did someone get charged with manslaughter for that? Did someone who sat on a report from the National Weather Service and the Storm Prediction Center, did that someone have to go before a judge and explain why they didn't bother telling those girls to get out of that cabin? Who's going to take the fall for that? Nobody. They'll say something like, it was the weather. Who knew? Somebody knew. That's their job to know. And if they really didn't know, if they really were taken by surprise, then what does that tell you? This is not the same planet, people. Either they knew and they refused to act on the warning, or this is not the same planet and they really didn't know. It's like 2023 all over again. That's strange. Were you expecting that? I was not expecting that. What just happened? That's how it was. Is that how it was in Texas when the Guadalupe River left its banks and washed all those children away? Maybe. But if that's the case, if Flash Flood Alley just had a flash flood that nobody could predict, then what does that tell you about the weather? The weather is broken. That's what it should tell you. This is not the same planet, folks. And I don't have to put you on a rocket and send you to another Earth-like planet around Tabby Star. I don't have to do that. You just stay right where you are and you just wait. All you have to do is wait. Now, the meteorologists are not going to help you with this. I don't really know why. They could. I mean, they're not... They have access to the information, don't they? They get the feeds from the Storm Prediction Center, and they get them from the National Weather Service. They get them from the hurricane predictions. They get all this stuff, don't they? What do they do? Do they sit on it? Do they just say, it's too technical, I don't understand this, and go back to the sports section? What do? What are they doing with this information? And when the climate scientists tell you, this planet's going to get hot, why don't they just take the next step and say, and as it gets hot, you're not going to recognize this planet? They could say that, but they don't. It's true. We're on an excursion. This is going to be a different planet. You're not going to recognize this place. In fact, most of the places that are currently inhabited won't be. That's what happens when it gets hot. Places that can support human life and human activity now won't be able to. We're not having that conversation, are we? Well, I do. I have that conversation every time I get on here. Because that's the conversation, people. Earth 2. What's it going to look like? When are we going to get it? Global heating is going to be an earth-shattering event. I don't mean to say that the Earth is going to break into pieces, but it will redefine what type of planet this is. Global heating will take this planet and shuffle around all the growth zones, all the rainforests, all the deserts are going to go different places. The Amazon is going to become a savanna. The boreal forest is going to become a grassland. I don't even know. It's going to burn. First of all, the boreal forest, the northern boreal forest, is going to burn, and then it's going to be ashes and bare rock. And so that's going to happen first. What does it become after it's ashes and bare rock? Sure, I don't even know. How long is that going to take? 10 years. It's burning right now. It burns all the time. It burns all winter. And no one can do anything about it because there's no people up there. They're not going to put out these fires when there's no people up there. It costs money. Why would they spend billions of dollars putting out fires when there's nobody up there? It's going to let them burn. And that's what they've been doing. They let them burn. So you can say goodbye to the northern boreal forest. It was nice while it lasted. And you can also say goodbye to the Amazon. The Amazon is now in terminal decline. Terminal decline. Cannot be saved. Oh, well, we'll just plant more trees. The hell you will. You're not doing anything. The conditions that are supposed to grow trees are gone. That's why the trees are dying. This first principles, okay? Why is the Amazon dying? Because the trees are dying. Why are the trees dying? Because the conditions no longer support the growth of trees. A, B, C, okay? Connect the dots, and now you're going to regrow it. You're going to plant baby trees, and you're going to get the Amazon. Why? The adult trees are dying, and the adult trees are more resilient than your little saplings. So do you think you're going to stick a little tree in the ground and walk away and come back later and find a forest? No, you're not. This is becoming a different planet, people. And on Earth 2, which is now in the process of being created, the conditions for Earth 2 are now in flight. Thank you very much. On Earth 2, you can't have an Amazon rainforest. On Earth 2, you can't have a northern boreal forest. Oh, and by the way, on Earth 2, you can't have ice anywhere. You can't have coastal cities anywhere. 270 feet of sea level rise inundates everything and most countries. Okay, Switzerland, up on the top of the Swiss Alps, okay, they'll be fine. But the Netherlands, the central United States, all the Caribbean islands, including the entirety of the Philippines, and probably much of Taiwan. Taiwan is fairly mountainous, so there's a little spine in the center that'll be fine. But the rest of the planet is going to look different. North America won't be attached to South America. They'll be separated. Large parts of Europe will be flooded. The UK, large parts of the UK will be flooded. London, the whole south of England will be underwater. Permanently. You won't recognize this place. You won't recognize Earth 2.0 from a satellite image. And what about the human species? Where are they? What happened to them? That's the conversation we're supposed to be having now, people. Stop being surprised by the weather. Oh, the weather. Yeah. It's going to get completely crazy. Prepare yourself for crazy. All right? That's the weather report for the next 30 years. Hi, I'm your friendly meteorologist. Tonight at 6:25, I'm here to tell you I'm giving you my last weather report. The last weather report I'm ever going to give. The planet's going to kill you. Now back to sports. That's the weather report. Earth 2.0 is going to kill you. And if you're an uncontacted indigenous tribe in Amazonia, you're never going to be contacted. You're just going to die. And if you're a village of tribesmen in Africa that's been doing pretty well so far with your goats and your pasture and your little bit of water that comes down your river all the time is reliable, yeah, it's not going to happen. Then you're going to suffer, and then you're going to die. Or you'll escape to the nearest large city or something like that. Who knows what's going to happen to people? They're going to be on the move. They're not going to be welcome wherever they go. They're going to cause nothing but trouble. Not their fault, just a fact. And what about humanity? Where's our place on Earth 2? That's the conversation we're supposed to be having now. Because that's what's coming. And it's not going to take 1,000 years. It's not going to take a century. It might take 30 years. Now, not in my lifetime, right? I'm 66 and another 20 years. Oh, but I'll get to see it. Yeah, I'll be 86 if I'm lucky, right? If I'm living in a wealthy part of the world. We have medical systems. Maybe we'll still have them in 20 years. Probably not. But anyway, I might live to 86. It's possible if I take care of myself. And I'll get to see most of this. I will get to see most of this. Am I looking forward to it? No. No, I'm not. I am not looking forward to it at all. And if I was a 20-something today, and by 40, I'm going to be in the jaws of disaster all the goddamn time? What is a 20-something? What are they supposed to be talking about right now? What are they supposed to be hearing? What is it that the weatherman is supposed to say every day at 6:25 in the evening when it's his segment between, sports and the Kardashians? When he gets his 30 seconds, what should he tell the 20-somethings? Well, he could tell them what I tell them. What I tell everybody that comes on this channel. You're fucked. Now, you're not as fucked today as you're going to be 10 years from now. And 10 years from now, you're not going to be as fucked as you're going to be 20 years from now. But it's going to be increasingly dire. It's going to be increasingly bad. It's not like getting hit by an asteroid, but this is a termination event. This event, global heating, is going to terminate nearly everything that we thought was sacred and eternal about Earth 1. Earth 2 is another planet. Earth 2 is a different planet. Not the one we evolved on. Not the one we inhabit now. Not the one that the meteorologists can tell you with some confidence during the weather report. A different planet. Hostile to human endeavors. Hostile to life in general. The oceans could be dead. The boreal forest will have burned. The Amazon forest will be gone, completely gone, in 20 years. Maybe even 5, or certainly no more than 10. Planet 2.0, Earth 2.0, nothing like this. Nothing. And that's where we're going. Why aren't we having this discussion? Oh, because it's not true. You're just making it up. No, I'm not. Hothouse Earth, which is now in discussion. How do we avoid hothouse Earth, which is 10 degrees C above pre-industrial baseline, which they think means 1850, but really it should be year 500, right? Compared to an 1850 average temperature of the Earth, however that's calculated, we're going to be in hothouse Earth, 10 degrees C departure from that, 10 degrees C centigrade, which is more like 25 degrees Fahrenheit. And nothing will be the same. And if you're thinking that your only problem will be that it's going to be 25 degrees Fahrenheit hotter and you'll have to have air conditioning, no, you completely fail to understand. You completely fail to understand the challenge. You won't have electricity, for starters. And my prediction, see my book, it was 100 days. My prediction, link in the description. My description is that you'll be living underground. And that to go on the surface, you'll have to wear the equivalent of a spacesuit. Earth 2.0, Earth 2, will probably not be habitable on the surface. Because that's how hot it's going to get. You'll need a spacesuit because this planet is going to change completely. That's what I got. Like and subscribe. This kind of content doesn't get very far on YouTube. So if you want to help me out, throw a like on it and throw a comment in the comment section. And we're trying to get the word out, people. Doing my best. Help me out. The book is available. A link in the description. You probably should have a read. Thinking about a sequel. We'll see what happens. And as per my usual, don't die.